So these are things that I track even for myself, especially when I'm practicing, because this is what actually is going to help me improve my score and my game overall. And this is what we call course management. So I'm tracking the fairways. Every time I hit off of a hole, I want to know, is my ball in the fairway? And the reason why that's important is because if your ball lands in the rough or in the trees or somewhere other than the fairway, the water, that's going to increase most likely your score for that hole. So you want to kind of see the percentages of how often am I putting myself in a higher score range. So on your scorecard, you can put a Y or an N for fairways, just to let you know, okay, I did hit a fairway, or just put a Y for the holes that you did hit the fairway for. Yeah, hit the fairway on, excuse me. Then you have putts per hole. This is very important. So regardless of the tracking system I'm giving you here, you should always be tracking your putts. So typically when I'm keeping score, let's say in a tournament, especially if I'm playing, obviously like I said, individual by myself, I'm always writing my entire score for that hole, assuming let's say the score I have for that hole is a 5. But then I'm also writing down my putts and assume my putts were 2. So 5/2 is what it'll look like on my scorecard. And the reason why you need to keep track of your putts is because putts are probably the first thing in the golf game that can reduce your score. So if you're looking like, hey, I want to get better, I want to break 100, thing that you need to focus on right out the gate is your putting. And if you're able to putt 1 or 2 putts every single hole, then you are going to see your score improve right away. Um, Once you do that, there's other things you can address, but I would say putts is definitely your priority to improve your score. So keep track of your putts. Anything over 2 is considered high because even when we do par for the course, meaning the professionals, they're assuming it's taking them at least 2 putts on every hole. So if the par is 4, they're assuming 2 of those strokes is a putt, and then the other 2 is the how many attempts it took them to get onto the green. So that'd be 2 and 2. Or if it's a 5, it'd be 3 attempts to get on the green and 2 putts. So that's how your personal par should work too, is that you're assuming that every single hole you should be 2 putting or less because that's the average that everybody is basing their game on. And then finally, green and regulations. Now, this is a more advanced stat to track, but I think it's worth doing because, again, just like putts, if you improve your green and regulation, you are going to improve your score significantly. So remember I said just not even a minute ago, every par assumes that you're putting 2 times on each hole. Green and regulation is how many attempts you hit the ball to get it on the green. So it's the other half of the equation. If I could do a math equation right now, I'd say green and regulations plus putts equals par. That's how that would look mathematically. So ideally, if you are able to, even if it's your personal par, if you're able to get the ball in, let's say your personal par for a par 4 is 6, which would be a double bogey. Doing the math, you would assume you're 2 putting, so that means it should take you 4 strokes from the time you hit the ball on the tee to get it on the green to get it on in green and regulation. And that's very doable. I mean, for those who have been playing for a little while, if you really think about it, that's a very doable thing. Because ideally, you're hitting the ball at least 100 yards minimum. So if you keep a 100-yard shot and the hole is 400 yards or less, which a lot of the holes are less than 400 yards, I know I'm getting super mathematical right now, but this is how I think about it when I score. Then if you hit a 100-yard shot 4 times, get it on the green, now you're 2 putting. That's a 6. That's how you figure out how you improve your game. So you don't have to hit your driver to do a 100-yard shot, I'm sure for most of you. But even if you do, just know that that's how you manage yourself. And these are the stats that will help you get your better scores. All right, so this is why I suggest this, and I kind of went into it already, but one, you want to know You don't necessarily need to know the total score at first when you're starting out as a beginner, because right now you're just learning how to manage, and you may even do more scrambles, which I'll talk about in a second. But that's something that stats will help you with when you don't want to track score. Um, you also know how to help yourself when you keep track of your stats. So, for example, if you come to a coach and you say, I've only hit one green in regulation, or I have averaged 40 putts for 9 holes when the average should be 36, then I, as your coach, can say, okay, you know what? I think the area we need to work on today is your putting. Or, you know what? I think the area we need to work on today is your, 150 yard shot to the green. So depending on what that looks like, but just kind of, it helps me determine how to help you improve your game versus you coming to your coach and saying, man, I wasn't hitting my driver well today. Can you fix my driver? And everybody says that, right? And I'm not saying the driver isn't important, but the driver is only hit maybe 7 or 6 holes out of the 9 holes that you're playing on a golf course. And so that is probably the least of priorities when it comes to improving your score. And so these stats that I just went over, that will help you get your coach to help in a way that's really going to benefit you score-wise. And like I said, you can track one of the stats. You don't have to do all of them. But the idea is if you track them, obviously putting would be the first one until you get to a place of handling that and knowing you're shooting around 36. I think 36 is for the 18. Yeah, for the 18 holes. When you're shooting 36 putts or less for 18 holes or 18 putts for 9 holes, then we can look at some of the other stats, right, to improve your score. But that would be the first one I'd recommend. And then the fairways, of course, is also important if you're getting into a lot of trouble. Um, but yes, all of this will help you with the lowering of your score.